So now we've got a bunch of stuff, but as always, we want to look at it as if it's all one thing. So by doing that, too, you're really kind of practicing this idea of visualization, so you can just see what it's going to look like on the canvas. So instead of seeing a cup on top of a cube and a cone on top of a tall cube and a cylinder or a sphere, I'm just trying to see it all as one thing. So I'm trying to just get the architecture of the still life, or that framework. So the cone and the tall cube are really just a vertical. So with verticals, it's not a bad idea to just kind of visualize where that center line is. So really we have two verticals, the cup on top of the cube as well. So there are two verticals that are going to be spaced something like this, I think. This one's taller. And then we've got this sphere that's going to be maybe down here somewhere, at the bottom. All right, so that's just kind of a starting point to map this out. I want to kind of get the heights of the cubes maybe. So if I'm visualizing this as a painting, the top of this cube is going to be a little more than halfway up the canvas, I think. That would make sense to me. So I'm just going to make a mark there, and I'm just sort of visualizing where this one might be compared to that. All right, and then if this is the center line of all that stuff, I can see the sphere is a little to the left of that center line, or it partially intersects it, and it's almost as tall as that cube, not quite. So I can just sort of start to do that maybe. As a starting point, it's probably going to move. From there I see part of that, the angle of that cube in relation to that sphere. Maybe I'll draw, since I'd located the sphere roughly, maybe I will get the corner of this tall cube, right? And I decided it's coming about to here. So maybe I'll hint at that top of that cube. So I kind of keep moving around too, because I'm trying to see it all as one. So maybe if I come over here and think, okay, roughly how much higher is the cup than that corner? It's going to be up here somewhere. I'm just going to throw in an ellipse there. And then the top of the cone's probably going to end up being about there. So I'm just kind of comparing. Looks like it might even be a little higher. I hope this makes some sense. Right off the bat, I would say the cup looks like it's maybe going to be a little too tall. Possibly. Maybe I should just keep going here. Well, let's figure out the cube. Looks to me like the cube will be a little bit higher. We'll say that is the corner of the cube. And we'll just throw an angle in here for that maybe. We'll start to guess at that cube. I can see the bottom of this cube comes toward near the bottom of the sphere. So we're kind of putting a lot of trust in the sphere right now. The more I look at it, the more this cup might be about right. Let's see. All right. And then just estimating about how wide this cube is compared to its height. Now there is a way to kind of measure this stuff. I can show you that later. This edge of this cube is right next to the sphere. From where I am, I see just a little bit of a distance. We might want to go ahead and start getting the cone in here. Looks like it starts about here, in from the corner of that cube a little bit. Maybe I will try to get this cup in here too. Well, let me get this side of this cube because I want to kind of pay attention to the distance here between this cube and this one, and where it intersects the sphere. So it's something like that. Need to move this corner over a little bit. Handy eraser here. All right, let's see what we've got. I'm going to be able to see a little bit of the end of this cube on the top to indicate where this cone is. And then I want to get some indication of this cup. So you notice that it tapers in as it comes down. And top of this drawn out. The back side's going to look like this. So there's nothing wrong with drawing right through an object, so you can see, visualize again how it sits in space. All right, so I think we're getting close. The cup has, from where I am, it has a little bit of a bigger ellipse to it. In other words, this curve is a little lower here. That looks a little bit crooked, so you can always do this too. Just draw a horizontal line. Try to fix your ellipse that way. Get a little heavy-handed here. I just want to make sure I know where I am. Okay, it's got this little lip on it too that's pretty important. All right. So that's kind of close to where I need to be with this. All right. And then of course, the good old back of the table hanging out there. All right, I'm going to bring that up a little bit more still, the other direction. Like so. All right, that's just about it, I think. I can kind of fix some of these angles as I go, like I did before. But that is the composition, so you can see how it fit really nicely on here, right? I had to move things slightly. That turned out not quite being the center line. That stayed. But that's how you do that. It makes it a lot easier rather than just like drawing one object at a time. You can easily get things screwed up that way. If you just kind of keep moving around, visualizing this all as one thing, it really helps you with your composition. Okay, let's try to do a quick block in of this. I don't know exactly how quick this will be. This is a bigger canvas. So again, I'm just starting with the background. You don't always have to start with it, especially if it's fairly minor, but we've got a lot of background space here like the others, so I like to go ahead and get that filled in. And again, by blocking in the background, it helps us see where things are going in terms of the feeling of illumination in the painting. And again, my drawing, my edges aren't completely accurate. Paint is pretty thinned out. backdrop's going to need a little correction here. These angles aren't quite right, but we'll live with it for the moment. I probably should have wiped down the charcoal first. Not a big deal though. Especially since this is black and white, the black charcoal blends in okay. I'm not concerned about it. And once again, I'm using the bigger brush from your set. Just kind of spreading things out, trying to get the white covered. Now one thing too, I deliberately put that black cup in a position where it's against the black backdrop, which makes it kind of disappear a little bit. And that's a good thing, because not everything in a painting needs to be or needs to have the same clarity. It's a good thing when you mix that up. So some things are more sharply focused, others are more subdued. And that's what's going to happen with this, because it's a slightly lighter value than the background, but it does kind of blend a little bit. So obviously where there are strong contrasts, those contrasts are going to stand out. All right, let's see. From here, since I still have a dark brush, I'll go ahead and kind of lay this in a little bit. So I'm going to make it just a little bit lighter. When I squint at it, it is a little bit lighter. But I don't want to leave a big halo around it. You know, a lot of times people, well, they want to still see it, so they just leave a white space around it. I think you're better off not doing that. Might lighten it just a little bit more though. Let's see, especially in here, it is a little bit lighter on the inside. All right, still just looking at big shapes here. Now one thing I do want to do with this is it takes some squinting to see it. But this also, even though it's just all black, it does have a lighter side and a shadow side. So I'm going to make this even lighter. It is a black object, so it's not super light. And it doesn't have the same degree of contrast, but it does have a little bit. And I'm really not going to worry about blending it right now. Okay, so I have light and shadow. And then it's super dark right in here. And I'm not going to worry about making it look real three-dimensional just yet.